Getting out of prison after 19 years was a shock, and this was after I had done everything I could during those years to prepare myself. I worked with mental health on the inside, I talked to a psychologist on a weekly basis on the outside, I meditated, I studied, I tried to do everything I could to address the trauma and the issues that brought me to prison, as well as build the skills I needed for release. But I didn't understand how significant it would be, how much of a shock it would be to be out in the world. And admittedly, I only have an hour and a half's notice, so it wasn't like I had weeks and months and years to build up, but still, it was one day I was there and the next day I wasn't. And it was walking into that big box store and having a panic attack because it's so many people in so much space, but yet I feel trapped. And there's so many things to choose and so many problems to address, and I have no idea where to start because I'm literally starting my life over with nothing but the clothes on my back. And I had all the support in the world. That's the thing. I had a place to stay. I had people who supported me and made it possible for me to get clothes, get transportation, get the things I needed to jump into life. A lot of people don't have that. So even with all the benefits in the world, even with all the preparation and intentionality in the world, I was incredibly overwhelmed. And I was overwhelmed by some of the emotional interactions. Because one thing I can say for prison is people are genuine, right? Like, I mean, sometimes guys run con, but you can be yourself. You can tell somebody what you think. And be like, yeah, I'm not trying to hear that right now. But in society, you have small talk and you sit there and you really don't like this person, but you talk nice to him anyways. Like, you don't do that in prison. There's no artifice. It's just honesty. Be like, yo, get away from me. And so adjusting to that is a little weird. Also, I knew in my mind, like, if somebody bumps into me in prison, I take it a certain way because it's generally done with intention, because people are hyper-conscious of space. Like, people don't unintentionally walk in other people's space because everybody pays attention. Out in the world, I know that that's not what they intend, but it doesn't change the fact that my internal reaction, my emotional reaction, jumps to the space that it would jump in prison because that's where I was for so many years. So understanding the way people act, or interpreting their actions or their words, and having to step back and say, hey, this isn't about me. I'm not the center of what's going on. Like, I need to step back. That was a big step because I knew I needed to do it, but the actual experience was very different. Then when I look at just adjusting to the world, people have a different perception. I remember talking to somebody who just got back from a war zone and then ended up locked up, and he said when he got back, he was like, yo, I couldn't understand why everybody was talking about this stupid S. Like, I don't want to hear about that. Like, that's not what life is about. Like, none of this matters. And there was a certain amount of that. So I get out and there are these like first world problems of people complaining about, oh yeah, and our yard is too long, and oh no, I just don't know what to do with the birch trees. And I'm like, yo, I'm free. Like, shut the F up. Like, I don't want to hear about some birch trees. But then, by the way, all the way, I'm like in that space and already doing landscaping and picked up a load of mulch. But in that initial thing, it was so overwhelming that I couldn't believe that people would talk about this stuff. It seemed so small. It seemed so irrelevant. It seemed so, I don't know how to describe it. So then it was adjusting and recognizing that expectations are going to be different. It was recognizing, you know what, choices are overwhelming. I have to limit the number of choices I make. I have to not go in and try to do everything at once. Because it was this thrill and this feeling like I need to make up for lost time. I need to go everywhere and see everything and do everything. And that's just not a realistic approach. Like, not only was that not satisfying, it was exhausting. And then when social media started being a thing and I had people reaching out, I was doing every interview for every high school kid who wanted to write a paper, and I was doing everything, and I was volunteering, and all of a sudden I'm completely exhausted and just like done. I have no energy left. I haven't done anything to take care of myself. I haven't done anything to kind of like build a structure. I've been just trying to make myself available to the world. And that didn't really make sense. And that was also like working weird jobs, like building decks and then doing other little odd jobs. And it was just, again, overwhelming because I was trying to take in too much. So when people ask me, like, what advice do I give somebody getting out? Take it slow. Like, break it down into manageable pieces because it will feel so overwhelming to have nothing but the clothes on your back, to have no understanding of the world, to have never worked in the world except as a juvenile. Like, those things may seem small, but they're huge. I had never paid rent. I had never paid taxes. I had never done any of that. I had couch surfed. I had worked, but, you know, I had money taken out of my paycheck. But I'd never had those experiences. I was overwhelmed by the idea of trying to figure out how to turn on an electric service. Like, what do? Do you just call them? But like, I don't know, like simple things that I can comprehend, but nonetheless feel big and overwhelming. These new things, these different things just feel completely out of sorts. So it was a matter of adjusting to that. And it was a matter of trying to figure out, okay, how can I break this down into small pieces? And now, 9.5 months later, I'm okay. Like, everything's going well. I feel like I'm comfortable in most things. So I'm sure something new will come up and it'll make me uncomfortable. But it took that time and it took that support. So I also tell people to make sure you reach out for support. Make sure you have somebody there if that's possible. Make sure you get all the resources you can for probation and parole. Make sure you allow other people to help you, because all that pride and I want to do it myself and I don't need any help, that doesn't work. Like, that's how we get exhausted. That's how we get in a bad place, and that's how we end up going back. Because we as a team can do all this stuff. But like me by myself, not so much. You by yourself, maybe, but like I wouldn't recommend it.